Hi there. I'd like to show you how to use a TI-84 Plus, or a Silver Edition, or a Color Edition, or even a TI-83 to solve a system of equations using the matrix function on the calculator. Now, we're going to be solving this system of equations, and it's pretty chunky. It's 4 equations with 4 variables. Smaller systems of equations aren't that difficult to solve by hand, but as they start to get bigger, they get more arithmetically complex, and sometimes it's just hard to keep track of everything. I'm doing this video because I have a course in differential equations in which this skill comes up sometimes. And while it's not really a prerequisite skill for the course, it's a very handy tool for just this situation. So to solve this system of equations, I'm going to first notice that the coefficients of the variable, the first thing I'll notice is that the variables here are labeled C1, C2, C3, and C4. In other situations or other environments, we might call those variables X, Y, Z, and W, or A, B, C, and E. But here they're called C1, C2, C3, and C4, and those stand for 4 different constant values, C for constant, that arrive from the solution of a differential equation. However we got here, this is my system, and I've noticed that my variables are labeled C1 through C4, and my coefficients are 1, 1, 1, and 1 in the first row. The answer side of the equation, this first equation, is also 1, and that's going to be important too. The coefficients in the second row are 1, -1, 2, and -3, and the answer side is 0. In the third row, I have 1, 1, 4, 9, and -2. And in the fifth row, I have 1, -1, 8, -27, and -1. So somehow I have to get all of that information into the calculator and then use the calculator to reduce this system so that I can just read off the values and know what the answers to the 4 variables are, know what the values of the 4 variables are that make all 4 of these equations true. So in order to do that, I'm going to go into the matrix function, which is right here. And you can see it's got a blue word over a button, and the blue indicates that the blue button, or the second button, is the one that I need to push to activate it. So I'm going to start by pressing second and then matrix, and that opens this menu. Now this menu there's 3 different things you can do here. You can read off the names of the matrices that are in here. You can do math on the matrices, or you can edit the matrices. Now, I haven't done anything with this calculator yet. This is the first time I've opened this emulator, so it's a brand new calculator and it doesn't have anything in the matrix. So if I click on, or if I stay selected on names and then just select number 1 and hit enter, it'll open matrix A, but there's nothing there because I haven't put anything in. So let's clear that, and let's go ahead, and clear the whole screen. Go back into second matrix, and let's make matrix A have some things in it. So if I'm going to put entries into A, then if I'm editing the matrix, I'm just creating a matrix. I'm going to arrow over to matrix, and I'm going to hit enter to select matrix A. You can select whichever one you want. You can have multiple matrices going on at once. That's why there's so many of them. I'm going to go ahead and use matrix A. So I'm going to hit enter, and that's going to open a dialog that shows me the size of the matrix and then the entries in that matrix. Now, a matrix is the same size as the number of entries in the system. We always go how many rows first, and then how many columns. So this matrix is 4 by 5, so I'm literally just going to type 4, and then enter, and then 5, and then enter. And you can see that as I do that, I get more blank spaces where the information that I need to type in will eventually go. Right now, they all have zeros in them, but the places are there now. So I'm going to start typing in the coefficients of each equation. So the first one is just going to be all 1s. I'll hit 1 and then enter after each one. There's my C3 coefficient, C4, and the answer entry. Row 2, I have 1, then -1, then 2, then -3. You can see that as you hit enter, the cursor moves to the next blank space. And the answer here is 0. When I hit enter this time, it'll go to the next blank space, which is at the beginning of the next line. Then I have 1, 1, 4, and 9. My answer is -2. And my last line, I have 1, -1, 8, -27, and -1. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been pushing this negative button instead of the minus button. And the reason for that calculator, especially if you have a leading negative sign, can't handle this minus. If I type -1 instead, it's thinking, what do you want me to subtract 1 from? It can't subtract 1 from, there's no entry there to subtract it from. So it results in an error. So we're just going to select 2 and go to where that error is and change this minus sign to this negative, and that will make all the difference. There we go. So now I've got the entries in my matrix. I have to leave the matrix screen, so second quit, before I can do math on the matrix, before I can actually figure out, before I can reduce it. So I've gone second quit. Now I'm going to go second matrix again. It seems a bit redundant to do this, but if you're in the matrix, you can't. If you're in edit, you can't do math on the matrix that you're editing. The calculator can't handle that. So you first have to leave the matrix menu, then go back into the matrix menu. This time I'm going to arrow over just to math. Now, what I want to do here is something called RREF, which stands for Reduced Row Echelon Form. Row echelon form isn't quite going to get us where we need. We need reduced row echelon form for this. Hit enter. And now we know what math we want to do, but we don't know what matrix we want to do it on. So I'm going to hit second matrix again and select the matrix that I've chosen to do this math on. And that's the one matrix I have in there. And then when I hit enter this time, I get a screen that looks like that. Now, going back over here, remember that we said the coefficients were 1 for all of these. Let's randomly choose a different row. Let's go with row 3, just because it's not all ones. The coefficients here are 1, 1, 4, 9, and then the answer sign is -2. So what I'm saying here is that 1C1 plus 1C2 plus 4C3s plus 9C4s add up to -2. What I'm seeing over here is that no C1s, no C2s, 1C3, and no C4s add up to -2/3. So what this tells me in this form, this tells me that C3 has a value of -2/3. C1 has a value of 1.3, and C4 has a value of -0.1. So this is it's a little bit of typing, but you can just type these values into the matrix, and it'll spit out, once you put it into reduced row echelon form, it'll spit out the values of those variables. Now here's a nifty little trick. You probably know about math enter for turning a nasty decimal into a fraction on your calculator screen. But that works in matrix world as well. So if leaving the screen as it is, hit math, select 1 or enter for fractions, and then hit enter again, I get my entries in fractional form instead of decimal form. I don't know why I can't see the whole thing down there, but now I can look at this and say that the C1 has a value of 11/8. C3 has a value of -2/3. And so on. This is an 8 down here, by the way, this -1/8. Let's see what happens if I scroll down a little bit. There we go. You can see the arrow up here. It tells me there's more to this entry on the screen than I can see here. This is a feature of the 84 Plus, the TI-84 Plus. This TI-84 Color Edition has a higher resolution screen, so this doesn't happen. So that's how you find the answer to the solution to a system of equations on the TI-84. It'll also work on the TI-83, as far as I know, pretty sure. And I hope that's helpful.